You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carl Stebbings and Matt Smith.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 126 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me in the kitchen studio this week, as always, is my trusty co-host Matt Smith.
Trusty, that's a
or should I say rusty?
Yeah, rusty, I think is the most appropriate.
But
But yes, hello, good morning, everyone. No, it's not good morning at all. It's good afternoon. Everyone who is, apologies for a slight, obviously, those who are not listening live, obviously that'll mean nothing to you. But it is still Saturday. It's the 20th of August. It is 10 past 2 in the afternoon at the moment, and there's a very good reason for that, and I'll leave Carlos to explain why.
Yeah, so we have had two very special guests indeed come in to the studio today. One's flown in.
Yes.
And the other one's driven in his lovely car.
Very nice car. Yes.
So a welcome into the kitchen studio. Again, it's his second visit to the kitchen.
It is, yeah.
It was
the
spare room studio.
Yeah,
last time.
it was, yes.
So a big welcome to our resident pilot then, Captain Al.
Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon, and thanks for the welcome.
Very good to see you, Al. You've enjoyed your breakfast this morning. We took you for breakfast this morning to
it was
a
very nice breakfast. I must confess, I was very impressed with the quality and quantity.
Indeed.
Good.
Seriously, if you're in Beccles, I swear that Posh Pig's breakfast is like the best breakfast you will ever get your hands on in this area anyway. I'm sure there are much better ones elsewhere in London and things, but
I doubt it.
No, it was pretty good.
So we also have another guest in the studio, in the kitchen studio, with us here. He's driven all the way from across the other side of the world, near enough.
Probably felt like it.
I know, it probably felt like it. But he's made the journey here to see us. Those of you who were at the APG meet-up at Farnborough would have seen this guy there frantically running around with Matt, doing all the audio stuff and the visual stuff for the show.
Yes.
So welcome on to the show, and welcome into the kitchen studio, Neville Bounds.
Hello guys, how are you doing? Thank you very much indeed for having me, and it's great to be in the kitchen studio actually. Really, really nice.
You didn't actually think it was a kitchen, did you?
No,
I mean, you were convinced it was.
Yeah, I just thought you'd staged it or something.
Yeah.
No, it is a real kitchen.
It is a real kitchen.
No, it's fantastic. And yes, I've driven a mere 155 miles to be here. Just saying. But very delighted to have done so as well. And,
a little bit unfortunate. The original plan was that I would fly down and pick Nev up on the way, well, not really on the way, but a bit of a detour.
Little detour,
Nev up and then come here. But unfortunately, the great British weather has foiled our plans, and Nev had to use the backup mode of transport.
I mean, I must say, actually, we got to about... you'd landed, and we were just sort of doing parking fees and all that kind of whatever you call it. Is it parking fees? Landing fees. My apologies. Busy dealing with all that, and then we went straight to breakfast. And there was no more than about half an hour between when Al landed and when we went out to breakfast. And honestly, I mean, talk about a change of weather. I mean, talk about pick your window perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say to my wife, timing is everything.
Oh dear, family show again.
There we go.
Well done. That was almost on time.
I know.
Well done. I'm very proud of you.
So thanks to everyone in the chat room for joining us.
Yep.
Loads of people in the chat room today. It's very busy in there.
Fantastic.
We've got podcast royalty in the chat room.
We have
We've got
indeed.
Captain
Yeah.
Jeff is in the chat room.
Absolutely.
Along with loads of more listeners. Yeah.
Indeed. And actually, while we're there now, a lot of people who were involved with the show last week will know that it was a certain person's 40th, or as I like to say, the 10th anniversary of his 30th birthday was last weekend. And some of you will know that there were actually some scheming was done on my part as a big surprise because Carlos literally had no idea. I think he was a bit suspicious as to why very few messages had come in audio-wise. He was a bit sulky.
No one loves me.
Nobody loves him anymore. And that's because I'd hijacked them all and I played them all out at his party. One or two listeners have actually written to me directly sort of saying, can we hear them, because some of them were quite good. So I'm going to get Carlos to press the little button on his tablet, and so this is the set of birthday messages. It's a little bit late, I know, but it's because I wanted to keep it as a surprise for his party, because it was his 40th. Some messages from podcast royalty and all sorts. So if you'd like to hit the go button now, please.
Birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Carlos, happy birthday to you.
Hello from Jenny in Rome, although I'm actually near Rimini.
on Italy's Adriatic coast at the moment. I'm travelling back to Rome on Saturday, so I can't be in the chat room, but I wanted to wish you, Carlos, a very happy birthday. I know it's an important one. And together with my best wishes, I'd like to thank you for all your hard work and your enthusiasm in creating such an enjoyable and informative podcast, which now has its own unique slot in the aviation podcast world. Much appreciated. Bye for now.
Hi Carlos, it's Nev here. Hope you are well, sir. A little bird tells me that it's your 40th birthday today. So many congratulations from Sue and myself, aka Mrs. Nev, and hope you have a great day. And I'd just like to say what a great pleasure it was meeting you down at Farnborough the other week, and also the podcast we did whilst I was in Amsterdam the other day as well. Really enjoyed that, and it seemed to go down pretty well, didn't it? And in fact, when Sue came over to Farnborough with me, all that stuff that we had there, all that gear, she said how impressed she was with your equipment.
That's what she said.
Anyway, have a great day, mate. Take care. Cheers.
Happy birthday to you.
I should just say, listeners, this was actually Myla who's singing this.
You. Happy birthday, dear Carlos. Happy birthday to you.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Captain Al here, a good friend of Carlos. Unfortunately, I can't be with you tonight to celebrate your birthday. Have a great night, and I'll leave you with these two thoughts. You've only got 87,600 hours left until you're 50. Also, it was reported recently that at the age of 20, men say that they have sex at least 5 times a week. By the time they reach your age, Carlos, they're still telling the same lie. Take care, buddy, and have a good party. Captain Al out.
Hey, it's the birthday for Carlos, and I'm here with a bunch of the gang, and we're having a bit of a party in your honour, man, and I'll see if I can get them to turn down the sound in just a bit, but mate, I just stepped into a room so I could say happy birthday. Mate, happy birthday all the way over there in Old Blighty, and hope you're having a bit of fun, you know, getting up to a bit of mischief and all that, getting a bit of flying, you know, get up there, get some altitude, get some fun. Anyhow, that'll do with butchering that accent. And yeah, mate, I just hope you're having a really great time. Looks like the photos of that bonfire. Oh, sorry, the cake with the candles. Yeah, it looked like that was a lot of fun and possibly even tasty. So hope you're having fun. Hope everyone's there having a blast. Sorry we can't be there to enjoy. Unfortunately, yeah, just the private jet's offline, and unfortunately just had to pay taxes, so there's no money to jump on and get those business class or even first class tickets. I mean, heck, even economy, I just couldn't do it. Sorry, mate. But anyhow, one day I will be over there in the UK and we'll have a belated party for you. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back and see if I can get these guys to coordinate, and we're going to sing you a little something. Woohoo!
Captain Carlos, hello, it's Wing Commander Pip here, wishing you a very happy 40th birthday. How on earth did you get all the way to 40 without crashing and burning? I'll never know. So as you move forward now into the autumn years of your life, as old age sets in, push on with that PPL. It'll be great to see you with your private pilot's license finally. So wishing you a great day, hope you have a great party, hope you enjoy yourself, may you get the biggest slice of birthday cake, and keep the blue side up as always. Happy birthday to you, pal. Take care.
WAPG, airline pilot guy.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger.
So, I hear from a little bird that it's some kind of a special occasion for someone we know over on the other side of the pond in the UK, Carlos Stebbings. I hear that you're actually getting to be quite an old and
It's sad, so sad, with the sad situation, and it's getting more.
you are getting more absurd. So we heard that it was a pretty big number, that it's your birthday, your 40th birthday. So sorry to hear that. We're here to wish you a happy birthday from the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
Happy birthday, Carlos. Yeah, 40. That's a good milestone, a nice achievement. It's much older than I am, so enjoy that. But I have a feeling I'll be there before I know it too, so I probably shouldn't say anything too mean about it. But while I have the chance, I guess I will. But no, seriously, man, happy birthday. Hope you're having a wonderful party. Hope you had a wonderful day, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
And from me, Carlos, congratulations for reaching this fabulous age. It was so long ago, I can't actually remember what it was like to turn 40. But I'm told that at 40, your vision starts to go. But then there's a good side. You can't see what's happening to your body. Congratulations, old man.
And finally, Carlos, one more thing to say.
I think I love you. I think I love you.
Don't tell Gemma. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Carlos.
Oh, seriously, guys, thank you ever so much. As I say, it was all done as a big surprise for Carlos. He didn't know anything about it. We seem to be under attack here in the studio, but we won't talk about that. So yes, no, seriously, guys, thank you very much for all the wonderful message that you sent me. It was, as I say, he had no idea until I started playing it at his party. Admittedly, a lot of people in the room there were going, "What on earth is this?" But no, it was brilliant. So as I say, and obviously two of the people who sent me messages are here in the studio right now. So
we've just come to collect our fee.
Right? Okay. I didn't. Oh dear. I didn't.
Well, see Matt for that one.
yeah, absolutely, because he knew nothing about it. Brilliant. Anyway, all part of the fun. So that was it. It was Carlos is now officially old, and good news, everyone. It's downhill from here on in. So I'm told. Yes, but I've got no room to talk because it's my turn to be, as I say, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of my 30th. In November, so we will
make a note.
And moving swiftly on.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, so enough of this. I think we have an aviation-related show to do, don't you?
We do, yeah. Oh, and a bit of news before we start. I have following on from sort of last week's show and that, I have booked the flights to Oman for October.
Okay.
And on advisement from a certain chap who's sitting across the table from me here, and Mr. Nev there, I'm flying British Airways.
Are you?
Yes. Finally, he has seen the light.
Roll Britannia. Britannia rolls.
And but unfortunately for the chap sitting to my left here, Captain Al, I'm flying on a Boeing 787-9.
The plastic, fantastic.
Yes, okay, good.
Don't fly too close to the sun; it'll melt.
Oh dear.
So yes, we're not flying with Emirates this year. It's going to be BA all the way. So okay. Nev, I hope it's going to be a good flight.
Yeah, hopefully you give us a nice review of it as well.
Yeah, I will do.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose we better start.
Yeah, we ought to do something.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with a rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
I am, yes.
Are you ready, Al?
Oh, yes.
And are you ready, Nev?
Totally.
Let's go.
Okay.
So, kicking off this week's first news story on the Breaking Travel news site. And the headline is, funnily enough, British Airways 81 tops the most delayed flight ranking. Oh, this is not looking too good, is it, Nev? Honestly.
What was that about you booking a flight with BA? Sorry.
Moving on.
So, flight compensation company EU Claim has released internal data revealing the most unlucky flight numbers this summer. Flagship British Airways and flight BA81, oh that's good because mine's 73.
Okay.
From London Heathrow to Accra has been revealed as the most unlucky flight number this summer, with a total of 10 delays over 180 minutes between April and July. British Airways is, however, not alone. EasyJet's EZY8876 flight from Amsterdam to London Gatwick and Ryanair's flight FR9811 from Barcelona to London Stansted have won silver and bronze for the most unlucky flight of the summer, with a total of 12 delays in the last 4 months. The data further reveals that August 2016 is set to be the worst on record for cancelled and delayed flights since 2013. Over the last 4 years, EU Claim has seen a number of people seeking compensation against airlines in August rising rapidly, and based on the growth of cancelled and delayed flights, EU Claim predicts a total of 1,090 delays of more than 3 hours and 792 cancellations in total this month. But it's not all doom and gloom for British Airlines, as EU Claim reveals the longest delays by airlines in the month of August since 2013, with a UK operator never making it into the list of worst offenders. Air Blue tops the chart with a delay of 51 hours and 10 minutes from Manchester to Islamabad in August 2013, followed by Norwegian Air Shuttle with a delay of 33 hours and 41 minutes in 2015, and Vietnam Airlines with delays of over 32 hours in 2014.
Good-o.
Blimey.
So I bet you really can't wait now.
So that's unlucky flight numbers. So
Right.
I'm not flying on any of those flight numbers.
I
That's
do. I
okay.
do love pointless superstition, though, doesn't everybody else? I mean, it's like, just making up stuff to sort of like, it's like any flight with. I mean, actually, seriously, I used to work in a hotel, and we had 14 bedrooms. No, sorry, we only had 13 bedrooms, but we didn't have a room 13. We only had a room 14 because nobody would ever stay in room 13, so we had to rebrand it.
Have you ever flown a flight 13? Royal Jet Flight 13?
No, and also a lot of our aircraft, if not all, don't have a row 13 either.
Really?
It'll go from 12 to 14.
Did you also know that British Airways used to do that? They used to go from 12 to 14, but now they do have a row 13. I wonder why that is.
I know a lot of people who actually have had the number 13 as their lucky number.
Do you know what? I think this is an ode. We should all go out today and buy a lucky dip or a lottery ticket with the number 13.
With the number 13. Right, okay. Well, I'll take anything for a lottery win. I'm not fussy.
I mean, I think there's a reasonable connection between the flight number and the destination for some of these flights, isn't there? So I think the number is potentially quite irrelevant, and the destination and indeed the airline.
So where's Accra, Al?
It's on the west coast of Africa.
Oh, okay. Okay.
A local
flight,
destination, then. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's in Ghana.
That's a few miles away then.
Mm-hmm.
What's been your longest delay, Al, with Royal Jet in your history with them? Personal delay with flight?
I've not had any particularly long delays, to be truthful.
That's because he's a supersonic pilot. You see, that's what it is. He keeps them down to a minimum.
Yeah. Nothing in those sort of realms. To be honest. I mean, where you're talking about flights being delayed by several days, that's quite good going, isn't it? I mean, you might as well walk.
Well, maybe not walk, but yeah, maybe a drive. Yeah.
My flight was delayed today, actually. I had to get the car.
Yeah, indeed. EU 261 does not apply.
No. Yes, I should be putting in for my compensation.
But at least your bag's got here, Ned.
Well, that's true. Yeah, they didn't go missing anyway.
Actually, York Mola in the chat room has put in China 14 and 4 are unlucky numbers.
14 and 4, okay.
Yeah, but planes there do have a row 4 and a row 14.
Right, yeah. But this whole superstition thing, I'm sorry, it's a load of nonsense.
Yes.
It's like people who leave their lives by horoscopes, but we won't open that can of worms.
No. But so go around the table then. What's the longest flight delay as a passenger you've experienced? Because I was just trying to...
Ours was the year before last, flying with Emirates from Heathrow, and that was a medical emergency when we left the gate. We had to return to the gate, and that was 2.5 hours.
Okay, that's not bad.
I had a 2-hour 10-minute delay at Stansted going to Edinburgh, so the delay was far longer than the actual flight.
No.
2 significant delays. London Gatwick to Dallas Fort Worth on a British Airways. So it was coming back actually. back from DFW.
You're really selling British
Gatwick.
Airways to us, by the way.
It's a long time ago, and it was a steam-driven aircraft.
Okay. Right.
But yes, we had a hydraulic failure on the taxi out to the runway, and after much tech and mucking about, we returned to the gate and we spent the night in a hotel. And we missed a day, obviously. And then the other one was I was flying out of Copenhagen with the SAS boys and girls, just cleaned up and about, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 feet. And somebody inconveniently had a heart attack on the plane. So we've gone back to Copenhagen for an overweight landing where the crew then went out of hours. And so we're in the hotel
And so
again.
you're in the hotel again,
So those are the only two significant ones I've ever picked up, actually.
In the chat room here, actually, we've got Tony S. was saying that her longest delay was 4 hours for her, and that was because some of the cabin crew had phoned in sick, so they were unable to get off the ground. Where are we? We've got Stuart was saying that it's only an hour for him. I guess he'd been quite lucky.
Evan Shue, 6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours was his longest delay. Just
Yeah,
let us know why.
48 hours was my longest as a passenger.
As a passenger, 48. Oh,
What
wow.
airline was that?
Air 2000.
Oh,
Wow.
I flew out with Air 2000.
On a Boeing 757, I bet.
You're absolutely right. Mombasa to London Gatwick via Cairo, and the aeroplane hit a bird on the way in, which destroyed the radome, the plastic bit at the front of the aeroplane. And yes, we went off to a hotel and stayed there and stayed there and stayed there, and eventually made it out of there in one piece.
I've got to ask the question, as we do have royalty in the chat room there. Jeff, what's the longest delay that you've had as a not only as a pilot but as a passenger as well, just out of sheer curiosity?
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Steph. Dr. Steph's in the chat room.
Blimey, we'll ask the same question to Steph anyway. We'll do that as well. But yes, we're slightly off topic, aren't we? This is going to run. So keep those coming in. We'll talk about the delays and stuff a little bit
Jeff's
later
put
on.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay, right. Okay, that's not helpful.
We can't top that, can
No, we can't. No, he says he's joking, though. He says he's kidding.
Yes. I had a flight like that once.
Yeah. Evan was saying actually that it was a broken ERJ. What's a broken ERJ? Somebody explain.
It's a regional jet ERJ.
An Embraer regional jet.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Sorry. So it was a broken ERJ at Canberra Airport was the reason for his delay. Jeff says he doesn't know. How rude, honestly.
So next story, moving on.
He's being diplomatic, I bet. Is it me now, is it?
On the breaking news.
Okay, yeah, on the breaking web, breaking travel
Breaking
news.
wind?
We've
had that already.
Just stop it, family show. Breaking travel news. I have officially lost control of the studio, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, so anything could happen from now on. Breaking travel news is the website. The headline is Flybe to add Sheffield to Dublin route to scheduled in October, which is quite good because actually when we were picking stories, we noticed, was it Dublin to Derry, and flights between those two are stopping apparently being blamed on Brexit, I should say. So this is quite good news. Flybe to add Sheffield
Dublin to Derry being blamed on Brexit.
On Brexit, yep, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was from Northern Ireland to Southern Ireland, you see, and that's it. And it was being blamed. The cancellation was being blamed on Brexit. But yeah, Google that, because seriously, we didn't include it because I wasn't sure I believed it, if I'm honest, which is why we didn't include it. But anyway, so Flybe has added a new route to Dublin from Yorkshire's Doncaster Sheffield Airport that will operate 6 times a week with effect from October the 30th. The news comes just months after the launch of its new partnership with Flybe that featured an initial 10 routes. It comes as a welcome boost to business and leisure travellers alike who enjoy visiting the Irish city. Dublin attracts visitors for midweek and weekend getaways and is great for a family trip away. Also, from the Irish airport, they can travel onwards with long-haul services to the US, fast-tracking their journey time to North American destinations, as Dublin Airport offers US-bound passengers pre-clearance immigration and customs services. This means that there are no border checks upon arrival in the United States, as passengers are classed as domestic arrivals.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
And when Manchester Terminal 2 reopens after its revamp, you'll be able to do the same there as well.
Really?
You'll be able to clear US immigration whilst you're on the ground in Manchester.
Really?
Which will mean that you'll just arrive in the United States and you'll just have to go through customs, but you won't have to go through immigration.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yep.
That is genuinely quite cool. I don't know, but only from Manchester. I mean, long shot. I don't suppose you know the answer. Is there any plans to do similar things with
Norwich?
Because I know not with Norwich. No. But because Stansted is owned by the same. It's the same company that owns. Is it Stansted or which one was it that? It wasn't it Stansted that was bought by the company that owns the one in Manchester?
I think
because they were made to, BAA were made to sell it, weren't they? And I think it was
yeah, you may well be right there. Don't quote me. Certainly, Manchester owns Bournemouth.
Yeah,
and it may well now.
I'm pretty sure it's somebody like that owns. The chat room will no doubt correct me, but I'm pretty sure that Stansted was bought by the company that owns the Manchester Airport. But I may be wrong.
I think it ultimately comes down to the airports making the relevant US department a suitable financial offer to place their staff there, and that way then it can be progressed that way. The reason it's existed in the Republic of Ireland in Dublin is because of the long-term friendship between the Irish and the Americans from the obviously the distant past. So
you were correct, by the way.
Oh, was I? Oh,
yeah.
good.
London Stansted Airport is owned by the Manchester Airports Group.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
MAG.
Yeah, MAG. That's it. MAG. Yeah, that was what was making me realise. Sorry, I've got I don't know what's the matter with me today. I've lost the ability to talk. Which could be a problem on a live broadcast, but anyway. So apologies, I'm a bit stuttery today. I'm not very well.
The next story, moving on,
yes,
is been specially chosen for Captain Al.
Has it?
Yeah,
oh, right.
As it involves. Actually, funnily enough, the story, which is actually on the CH Aviation website, is a story about Airbus, but the photograph they've used in the story.
Nev, avert your eyes, please.
Is not an Airbus. But anyway,
it looks like a transit van on wheels, that thing does. Oh, it's a Boeing 737, of course. Right, okay.
Good. That's fine. Yes.
So, oh, dear. This is challenging for an old person. Hang on, I'm just trying to...
He's trying to read the text on the screen. He needs to adjust the size.
Right,
the
okay.
size.
Oh, it's moving on its own now. Hang on.
Would somebody else like to read the story?
No, I can do it.
He's persevering.
Right. Okay. UK's Titan Airways to add Airbus wide bodies in the first quarter of 2017. Obviously, they're recruiting ladies of a larger size for working in the cabin. Titan Airways, who are based at London Stansted, commercial director Alistair Keyman says the UK's ACMI charter specialist is looking to add its first Airbus wide-bodied aircraft to its inventory next year. In an interview with Roots Online, Keyman said Titan was expecting its first A330, awesome aeroplane, during the spring of 2017, along with its maiden A319-100, a very nice airframe too. At present, Titan Airways operates a mixed Airbus and Boeing fleet. Well, I suppose they can't get enough Airbuses, can they? So they have to supplement it with second best.
Stop it.
Actually, having said that, the 737 is a very good performer, and the 73 MAX, if it actually delivers the fuel savings that the manufacturers say it will and are prepared to actually support, then it's going to be a phenomenal aeroplane.
Right.
I digress. Moving back, and one Boeing 767-300 in brackets ER, extended range. Its customers currently include Sweden's Novair, Norwegian Air International, Jet2 and Vueling. Given the seasonality of the European market, Titan is also looking to secure northern wintertime contracts in Asia, Australasia, the United States and Canada.
Titan Airways are based in Stansted.
Oh, are they?
And and they're kind of an ad hoc carrier or charter carrier. I think they're one of those carriers that you can call on at the last minute.
Yeah,
to
basically,
provide.
Especially during the summer, airlines typically don't have aeroplanes just sat around waiting to be used, because as you can imagine, an aircraft has a phenomenal rate of repayment on leases and so forth, so they have to be used, especially during the summer, because for large parts of the world it's very seasonal. So in our part of the world, the summer season is absolutely vital to airlines. So if you have a problem, say, whereby, say, for example, someone rams a baggage truck into an aeroplane and damages it, which invariably happens around about 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, when all the office people have gone home, then you may need an aircraft at very short notice. And this is where the likes of Titan come into play, because they have their aeroplane sat and pretty much ready to go with crews on very short notice standbys to go and operate it for...
But it must be quite a risky strategy because you've got no guarantee, essentially, that they're going to get called on. I mean, there's...
No, but their hourly rate is... as you might
that.
expect for someone who's
Yeah,
available.
no, okay.
Well, no, I wouldn't say extortionate, but
Yeah.
they are, offering a short notice service. So in exactly the same way as that if you want Amazon Prime, you have to pay a bit extra.
Yeah, okay.
If you want an aeroplane to arrive very quickly, all ready to go to take your passengers to wherever they need to go, then you are going to pay a premium. But of course... no one likes to inconvenience their passengers greatly.
No, and that extra premium, if you like, is probably outweighs the compensation.
Absolutely.
And all
When
that
we're
kind
into
of,
RAMs of sort of EU 261 for 3 hours, 2 hours and 59 minutes of delay and having to pay a bit of a premium is infinitely better than 3 hours and 1 minute of delay.
And this one is especially for Nev, obviously, because he does love a story where a picture matches up. So that's a 737-300 that they're using to advertise the story, and it's an A321 that they're talking about. Just to keep
A319, yeah.
A319.
A319, yeah.
Just because
you could
Nev
be the
loves
picture
these
editor
things,
for...
Why would the media bother to get it
to
right?
research it properly?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
But never mind, it's all part of the fun. Anyway.
So moving on to the next story, which is all for you, Nev.
Yeah, this one's been chosen especially for me because it's got lots of difficult to pronounce words in it.
Excellent, I know.
And but we're going to give it a go. This is from the flight.
I thought it was chosen because it's got the word botched in it.
Yes.
Hey, excuse me, I'll have you know that Nev's technical skills are unsurpassed only by my own. He says modestly.
I'm not expecting a technical moment today, but you never know.
Yes, anything's possible in this
You
configuration.
never know.
Yes, absolutely.
This is from the Flight Global website. I'm going to ask Captain Al a question after I've read this. I've just been reading it and I just cannot believe what I'm reading. But it says, botched go-around led to extraordinary 737 overrun. Investigators have detailed how a bungled go-around resulted in a Boeing 737-300's striking the runway as its gear retracted, causing substantial damage before the jet became airborne again. The aviatraffic aircraft had been descending towards the city of Osh in poor visibility and below minimum conditions for a Cat 1 instruments approach to runway 12 when the crew opted to execute a go-around. Russians Interstate Aviation Committee said the go-around should have been executed at a height of 60 metres, but was belatedly initiated at 45 metres. The decision to go around was made correctly, it said, but the action commenced with some delay. While the crew had sufficient margin to perform the go-around, the inquiry says, the pilots mishandled the procedure. The captain applied go-around thrust... Alan, stop it.
I'm trying to adjust your camera. It was absolutely fine.
It's all going really well.
Until someone said, move it. Yeah. No, it's come off.
Sorry, we're
It's
having a...
not gone terribly well, really.
No,
There is it.
indeed, yes,
Shall we?
Jeff thinks that Bungie is experiencing an earthquake currently.
It looks like it, doesn't it? Gosh.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So basically, it was never actually mounted. It was just lobbed on here, wasn't it?
Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
I
just
think,
so precariously balanced.
Just
is
as we
another
were
word.
saying, there wasn't.
It's been bonged. There's not even any blue tack on
Just
there.
as we were saying, there wasn't going to be a technical
No,
moment.
indeed, yeah.
There
No,
has
I want
been.
to make everyone else who
Yes.
does this, feel at home because it was all going far too well.
I'm just going to try.
Okay, good luck.
And
Sorry.
finish this story.
Focus, everyone.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Only because
Silence, please.
hopefully by the time I get to the end of it, Al will be in a position
Yes,
to answer
absolutely.
a question which I've got for him. But we'll see how that goes. But it says the captain applied go-around thrust and called for flap retraction, but responded to the natural pitch-up motion of the aircraft by pushing forward on the yoke. Investigators indicate that the captain could have been experiencing...
Oh, here we go. Brace yourself.
Somatographic illusion,
Yep.
which is a false impression of sharp nose-up attitude, possibly resulting from fatigue. It led to a breach of the missed approach profile, said the inquiry into the 22nd November 2015 accident. It adds that the first officer's passive behaviour meant that the captain's errors went uncorrected. Not uncommon in the Russian region, I have to say.
No,
As a result of the aircraft, which was just 38 metres above the runway and travelling at 146 knots, continued to descend instead of climbing away. And the crew failed to communicate adequately with one another and the prematurely initiated landing gear retraction before verifying that the 737 had achieved positive climb. I'm not going to read the whole thing, because
No.
it does go on a bit.
No.
But I mean, the go-around procedure, Al, it's one of the most common standard operating procedures, I would have thought, and well trained at most airlines. I wonder how it's possible for the crew to have got themselves in this position.
It's interesting, actually. A very good question. The two-engine go-around is very well practiced, rarely performed as a matter of cause. It's not in the habit of going around, and often messed up. Now, in this particular case, we're talking about the 737, which is a conventional aeroplane, so it doesn't have any flight control computers. It operates on a very similar level to the PA-28 that I flew today. Now, this will ring some bells of memory, hopefully, for Matt. But when you accelerate, your body isn't used to accelerating at that sort of rate, so it provides false signals to your brain that you're pitching up. And this is exactly what can happen in a go-around, where obviously you're accelerating, so you're increasing your speed, and you should be pitching up to 15 degrees would be the normal for a go-around, except if you don't trust your instruments, you will perceive that you're pitching up to a much greater angle because you're accelerating. And when I was talking to Matt about the sort of fear of flying aspects with regards to a takeoff,
I don't mind saying it was one of the things that concerned me so much. But it was the extreme amount of thrust that when the aircraft is taking off, and it
Could
always
I just say we've had a lot of thrust in the studio already today.
Indeed, absolutely, but we won't. We'll gloss over that. And it was from my point of view, because as Al pointed out, obviously, like I suppose when you're driving your car and all that kind of thing, obviously you're looking out the window. Of course, you can't do that very easily in an aeroplane, and it's difficult to judge the angle. So your body essentially lies to you, telling you that the angle is much more extreme than it actually is.
Yeah, it's the somatographic illusion. Your brain is confused, so therefore it can only rely on the signals that it's getting. So when we talked about not being able to use our eyes, so if we're a passenger, we're looking at the back of a seat.
Yeah.
If we're on the flight deck, we may be in cloud, for example, so we don't have any visual references. So in the absence of any visual references, the brain uses the only signal that it can, which is coming from the inner ear, which is in fact an incorrect signal.
Yeah, lying.
So yeah, absolutely. In exactly the same way as our body can fool us. If we go around on a children's roundabout a few times, we come off, we're dizzy, we can't walk in a straight line. So our body is often lied to us. So in this particular case, the crew, or the captain, hasn't abandoned his body function senses, which he should have, because they're lying to him. He should be using his instruments. And therefore what he has done is he has falsely felt that he's over-pitching and he's pushed forward. And it's very, very important, especially in a go-around where you're obviously going from approach thrust settings to toga, which is take-off go-around thrust, which is effectively full power out of the engine. So you are going to accelerate very quickly. You're going to get, pushed into the back of your seat, as it were. It is very, very important that you trust your instruments. And although a go-around isn't always an instrument to manoeuvre, you may be in cloud, you may not be, that is your reference. Your artificial horizon, your primary flight display is telling you the truth. And because there are no flight control computers or so forth in the 737, it is just simply a case of you cannot rely on what your body is telling you. You must trust your instruments.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the second part of my question was going to be, where was the first officer in all of this? Because there seems to be a complete lack of CRM on the flight deck.
Well, we have two situations. First of all, you can quite often get what I describe as the rabbit in the headlamps phenomena. So this go-around probably was not anticipated, so it's all happening very quickly, and it may well be a relatively inexperienced first officer. If it's in the nature of the text, I'm sorry if I've missed it, but someone with less experience can just completely go rabbit in headlamps and not be able to offer anything.
I think the captain knows what he's doing, therefore...
Well, there's two elements. There's that sort of like just not being able to offer anything.
Okay.
Because you just rabbit in the headlamp, cannot function.
Not sure what's going on yet.
The aeroplane's, well ahead of you and you're just a passenger now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it may well be that there is a significant experience gradient, or it may be that the captain's a very overpowering individual, or it just may be that the first officer is a very meek and non-assertive first officer. So if you have a non-assertive first officer who's like a rabbit in the headlamps, you effectively have no input, comment, assistance, safety net from the right-hand seat.
And he may also perhaps been maybe a junior, perhaps he hasn't been a first officer very long, perhaps hasn't quite got the confidence to sort of challenge his captain, essentially, perhaps.
I know they're talking about the toga switches on the Boeings, Al, but on the Airbus, what is the takeoff go around?
It's actually very easy on the Airbus, and it's quite instinctive. As you know, the thrust levers on the Airbus don't move as a result of any electric motors that can get jammed up with crisps and biscuits and cheese and so forth. But when we need to go around, it's just a case of moving the thrust levers as far forward as they will go, firewalling it in essence. That's a very instinctive thing to do. For most pilots, forward, go faster, pull back, go slower.
And you've got to adjust the flaps and everything yourself.
Basically, what will happen is when you go to toga, the flight directors will go into toga SRS go around track. So your toga will give you maximum power. The SRS is the speed reference system, so it will select a speed that it wants you to fly at. So that will command your pitch up, and it will fly you at a safe speed. And go around track will be whatever the track is that you're flying until it engages the missed approach procedure. And then basically you will fly that until you reach your acceleration altitude. So there will be a period where you're just at toga, flying 15 degrees, and up you go. And then you will level or lower the nose, accelerate a bit, and retract the flaps. And
happened to you lately, Al, or are you?
To be honest,
not very often.
2-engine go-arounds are quite a rare experience. I probably do about one a year. And for a lot of airlines, when we're in the simulator, we do a lot of single-engine sort of stuff. So single-engine go-arounds are quite common in a simulator. But when you come to do a 2-engine go-around, obviously you've got twice the amount of power,
right?
And therefore it can catch people unawares. And I have to say, it is a lot easier to do a 2-engine go-around on an Airbus. And if you happen to have the autopilot in, all you have to do is just move the thrust levers all the way forward, and the aeroplane will pitch up and manage itself.
Right. And then you have to explain to the passengers what's going on.
Yeah, but relatively speaking, it's not a manoeuvre that will cause a huge amount of distress. Yes, you'll notice that you've gone around.
Might be enough to upset me as a nervous flyer.
I mean, I remember some years ago going into Orlando International as a passenger. I was with my wife and sister-in-law, and there was a rain shower went through the airport, and we ended up going around. And my sister-in-law uttered the words of "flipping heck" or something of that order.
Something along those orders, yes.
Because you do get obviously pushed back into your seat. And again, you are, as a passenger, you're not privy to the instruments, so you are sensing quite a significant pitch up. It's not a roller coaster, it's only 15 degrees. And that 15 degrees, as Matt and I talked about, isn't actually particularly steep.
No.
But you perceive it as being a lot steeper. And I explained to her that, a go-round is just like having a second go at parking your car in a space.
It's just a lot more public. I think that's half the trouble, isn't it? Because if you have got passengers on board, it's like you might have one or two people perhaps in the car park if you're having to do it in your car. But
but it's not a big deal, is it?
No, it's not. No.
Of course, that's a correctly flown go-around manoeuvre. If you mess it up like these guys appear to have done, then I mean it can turn into a big accident.
Yeah, I bet.
So moving on then to the next story on Flight Global's site. This one is a picture story. Matt will put the pictures up in a moment. And the headline, ANA, or All Nippon Airways, takes delivery of the 50th 787. Now this one is the launch customer All Nippon Airways has taken delivery of their 50th Boeing 787 Dreamliner, becoming the first carrier to do so. The 787-9, woohoo! I'll be flying on one of those in October.
Seriously, boys and girls, he's going to be absolutely unbearable until the end of October. He really is.
I know. So this aircraft, which features a small
You're going on an Airfix model.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, it was either that or the A380. Oh. They're a bit boring now. Anyway,
you when you get on your Plastic Fantastic, yeah, ask if you can go upstairs and see the puzzled looks.
Right, anyway, carry on.
So the aircraft was handed over at a ceremony at Boeing's Everett Delivery Centre on the 17th of August. The 787 Dreamliner has played a significant role in opening up new routes in new markets while also forming the backbone of their long-haul fleet, said ANA's President and Chief Executive Osamu Shinobi. Flights Analyzer Fleets database shows the airline has 35 of the smaller 787-8s in service, while one is in storage under repair following a recent engine failure. The latest delivery also brings its 787-9 fleet to 14 units, with a further 30 on order. I can't see the chat room, so I don't know what this is all laughing at. So ANA also has orders for 3 of the stretched -10 variants of the 787. Flight Global's schedules data shows that ANA deploys its 787s on services to Europe, North America, and across Asia Pacific, as well as on some domestic
bring
routes.
that picture back up.
I'll put the picture on there. There we go.
There's
there is the jet in question, the 787-9.
With that being ANA, I wonder what livery they're going to put on it, because they have quite a range of liveries, don't they?
Do they?
ANA? Yeah, they have the Star Wars.
Yes, of
they
course.
do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, and of course there's a new film due out soon, so they might do something similar, perhaps.
Oh, I see the chat room now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. No, it's not something we can read out.
No.
Anyway.
So next story is for you.
That
Mr.
would be
Smith.
me. Yes. Hello. Oh, right. I've got to do something. Am I right? Sorry. So this is Flight Global again, and the headline is Aeroflot to take another 10 superjets. Russian flag carrier Aeroflot has committed to acquiring an additional batch of 10 Sukhoi Superjet regional airliners from the leasing arm of state-owned Sherbank. The airline's freshly signed agreement with Sherbank has been outlined via the... Oh, you really are doing it to me today, aren't you? It's the Zakupki public procurement website. Apologies to anyone if I've offended that terrible pronunciation. It shows that the 10 aircraft will be taken under 12-year financial leases. The aircraft are additional to the 30 superjets that Aeroflot ordered from Sukhoi in 2005. Since June 2011, the SkyTeam airline has received 29 of these. It expects to take delivery of the 30th shortly. Sherbank funded leases of 20 superjets, while VEB Leasing supplied the rest. And that's a very short story. So
that is
absolutely.
That's caught everybody out, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
I think not many airlines are taking these Sukhoi Superjets. I mean, the Russians.
So
have got
what
these
is
CityJet of taking delivery, aren't they? Yes. And I have to say, it's a nice looking aeroplane.
Is it? That would be classed as a regional jet. That's quite a small.
Yes. Although you do need a broom handle.
What to start them up?
No, not quite. It's an interesting arrangement, from what I can understand. To close the rear cargo hold.
Oh no!
You need.
I don't know if I want to hear this.
No. You need a long pole to be able to grab hold of the handle, from what I can understand.
Really?
And this has caused a little bit of confusion and chaos at certain outstations where a pole has not been available.
These
Pip's saying Swiss has got some. Pip was saying in the chat room.
Yeah, I was just looking on the sort of the site on here on Google, and they introduced into service in 2011. Primary users being Aeroflot, Interjet, and Gazpromavia. There's been 109 built so far, and if you want to go out and buy one now, you can get one of these Sukhoi Superjets for about $1.5 billion US. 34.4 million.
I was going to say hell's teeth.
Yeah, $35.5 million will get you one.
Buy
of
an
these.
airport for that much.
I was going to say, no wonder there aren't many people flying them if they're 1.3 billion US dollars.
Yeah, well, no, the Russians have got to make their money somehow, haven't they?
They hold a maximum of 108 persons. These superjets.
Oh, so they're not sort of jumbo size then. They're just sort of little aircraft.
They've got they're kind of a three
sort of 737 size.
3.2. Yeah, they're slightly narrow, I think.
Right. Okay.
But no, a Sukhoi Superjet. There we go. Next story, moving on, is all over to Captain Al for this one.
Which one is it? Give me a clue. Is it this
This is
one?
quite an interesting one. This is on the Fox 2 Now website. And,
Yep, I've got it.
Oh, good.
This is rather interesting. I like this one.
Okay,
This is the $5 rebate at Dobbs Tire and Auto Centre, yeah?
No, that,
I'm sorry, what?
That's the advert. Okay, I'll scroll
cover,
down.
yes.
not that one.
Right, hang on. I'm with it, right. Right, yes, on the Fox 2 Now website, the headline is Baby Born Mid-Flight Gets 1 Million Airline Miles.
Whoa! Wait, what on earth is a baby going to do with 1 million air miles?
Maybe Sam Chewy could try this as an
Well,
alternative.
to fly around. Yeah, that's good.
I
idea.
guess Sam. Yeah, if you're listening, Sam, you should have a baby on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the story reads thus. Of course, it's an American website, so I won't confess to understand the grammar or lack of, but here we go.
Brace yourselves, everyone.
Here's one kid who'll probably learn to fly before she can crawl. After being born 4 hours into a flight from Dubai to Manila, baby girl Haven has been gifted 1 million air mile points. Wow. Haven's mom went into labour more than 5 weeks early whilst flying on an aircraft operated by Philippines carrier Cebu Pacific on August 14. 2 nurses among the plane's passengers helped with the delivery, alongside cabin crew, as the pilot diverted to Hyderabad in India to seek further medical assistance. Ooh. The budget airline said it's the first time a baby has been born on one of its aircraft. Airline CEO Lance Gokengwai,
brilliant, well done,
said Haven would be awarded 1 million points on the airline's Get Go rewards to celebrate the birth. The points have no expiry and can be shared with the family.
No way. Really? See, I was kind of expecting that, you can have 1 million air points, but you've got to use them in 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We're happy that both mother and daughter are doing well and would like to commend our flight and cabin crew for handling the situation with the utmost of professionalism and efficiency, he said. We also express our sincerest gratitude to the 2 volunteer nurses who helped to ensure the baby's safe delivery. One fellow passenger described on Facebook how Haven's mum returned to her seat after giving birth during the most normal flight ever. My wife could take some notes here.
Yeah.
We only heard one
Al,
semi-loud
why?
screech, and a few seconds later there was a tinier, cute screech,
Aww.
and we knew the baby had been born. Luckily, she only had to push once.
Right. Okay. I don't know.
No
Moments
change there.
later...
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you that we are live.
Yes.
Yeah.
The woman got up to go back to her seat, baby in arms. Mighty strong, I might say. Haven's arrival, according to Umadal, delayed the flight's arrival at its destination by nearly 9 hours. But no complaints have been received. Everyone in that plane was blessed. And on just a personal level, I think that's a great story. There are probably very few babies born in flight. Statistically, far more people die on board aeroplanes than are born on aeroplanes.
Oh.
And candidly, when people die on board an aeroplane, it is obviously very sad and quite traumatic for people travelling alongside. To have a baby born can equally pose great issues with regards to the medical welfare for the mum and the child, and there's not a lot that you can do to delay the process. If baby's going to be born, baby will be born.
Yeah.
And there's not an awful lot of medical equipment and staff on board to deal with a premature baby. So I'm absolutely delighted that Haven was born successfully and seemingly doing well.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Nev, a million air miles. What? I mean, you're the air mile master here. What are the sort of things you could do with 1 million air miles?
Oh, that could easily get you a pint of milk or a cheap watch, probably, knowing the way they've downgraded everything these days,
okay.
unfortunately.
Well,
but
yeah.
no, I mean, yes, that you can do a lot with that, certainly. But of course, the thing is, only if you can find the flights that suit you, because all of this mileage business is all very well, but unfortunately, you're very limited to what flights you can take. So if you want to take a nice, what you think is going to be a nice midday flight somewhere, your points won't allow you to do that, and very often it's 6:30 in the morning instead.
I thought these
so-
points you get, Nev, you could just use whenever you like on whatever flight you like.
If only.
Oh, okay.
Mine always seem to expire just before I actually end up having to use them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
Yeah.
what points, man, are you, Nev? What kind of points do you like to accrue? Is it the BA ones?
Yes, I'm on the BA thing, and so that gives you what they call avios points.
Okay.
And you can also earn points if you've got an American Express BA card and things like that. And I tend to use them actually to have discounted flights. So when you're booking a normal flight, like I did the other week to Amsterdam, for the meet-up over there, I was able to get some money off of my flight by using some of my Avios points as a discounted fare. But it's not, I mean, it's not fantastic, I've got to say, but it's some money off. It's some beer money off, really.
Tony Esser suggested that you could probably buy a Costa coffee at Heathrow with them.
Right.
with a million points.
Yeah, with a million points. Yeah, it sounds about right.
You're-
I mean, seriously though. I mean, and we sort of alluded to this when we were chatting to Sam a couple of weeks back. Has the value of air miles, now that flight in general is much cheaper, has it had that much of an effect on like the collecting of points?
I think that there's no question about it that the some European flying, of course, is a lot cheaper than it ever was. And I remember going back to the early 2000s when we used to do exhibitions in Geneva, for example, and it was only British Airways and Swiss Air that flew there, and now there's EasyJet and Ryanair, so that the cost is a lot less. But it's the long haul stuff. It's really expensive, even in the cheap seats.
Really?
US flights, South Africa, Far East, Australia. So all of the flights. Do you remember years ago you used to see, I know we've been going back probably 15 or 16 years, but we used to see £300 return flights to New York from the UK.
Yeah.
Well, that's long gone, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
We've not
true.
seen that for years. So there are advantages to the Avios points thing, but of course you've got to keep the status going. So the moment you drop down a level, so I'm on the silver status at the moment I drop down to the bronze level, I can no longer go in the lounge unless I've bought a business class ticket.
Oh wow!
So it's all very weighed in favour of the airlines rather than the punter.
Rather than the punter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which I guess we shouldn't be surprised about, and a perk is a perk, I guess. But as you say, it's if you have collected lots of
I
points.
know. When I booked the flights this week on BA for our trip to Oman, they did. When you went through the booking process, they flagged up a pop up that if I got a BA credit card, that I could earn 1,000 points for this flight on a BA credit card. I just clicked the no thanks button and carried on.
Actually, Tony's asked a good question in the chat room again. Do we still have to pay passenger duty in the UK? I think we do, don't we? Or is it only certain airports?
Oh yes, passenger duty is still very much in play.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a tax at Norwich Airport, for example, which I think is on top of that, where which is trying to make the airport sort of better, which I think goes straight to the council, doesn't it? In our case, I might be wrong. But,
well, there's various levels of taxes and charge. You've got the airport passenger duty, which is just a straight government charge, and that is a function. It's tiered, and it depends on what class of travel you're flying in and where you're flying from and to, basically.
I remember covering a story a very, very long time ago because the government did actually lower the I'm sure, did they lower it or increase it? They did something with it and it changed.
They changed some of it. They also removed it for children.
That's right. That's what, yeah. Very good, very good.
Yes, they did that about 2 weeks after I travelled with my son.
Right, okay, that sounds about right, yes.
So yes, there is airport passenger duty. It's quite a stealth tax, I suppose I'd say, but it's one of the major factors in your ticket price. And then, obviously, certain airports, like I think you were alluding to, Norwich levied additional sort of
£10.
Yeah.
£10. And I think they did the same at Blackpool. Basically, I think it was almost like shooting your passengers in the foot because especially with regards to sort of, Norwich. I mean, Stansted's not that far away.
No.
And people will go, well, yeah, I've got the convenience of flying from my regional airport. This was the case in Blackpool. But, stuff this, I'm not paying to, have the porter cabin revamped.
Well, it's, as you say, Stansted is only about an hour and a half for us
Yes.
from here. So you think, well, why don't we go? I mean, it seems daft in a lot of ways because it's only I think if there were decent flights available to you from Norwich, and I'm using Norwich, obviously, I'm sorry, there are other regional airports, but I'm using Norwich. It's the only one that I've sort of really tried to fly from.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of thing. If the flights, well, as I say, we were looking at going out to
Amsterdam,
to
yeah.
Amsterdam
Yeah.
when they were
Yep.
having their big meetup. But it was just so unbelievably expensive. I mean,
300 and
so
something
you've
pound
got to
return.
pay a £10 tax for a really expensive flight. And it's a shame because I would much rather fly from Norwich if I could, because you can get anyone to run you to Norwich from here because it's only
20 minutes.
it's sort of 20 minutes, so you can get, and it's it's a decent enough runway, as we've discussed before, to get a reasonable sized aircraft in.
7.5s flying there.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
321s
it just I just wish, I don't know what the answer is really.
The problem is that, first of all, you do have Stansted relatively
Very
close
close,
behind. And obviously have a very large airline that operates out of Stansted. So when you're looking at, say, for example, Norwich, Amsterdam, Norwich comes into play there because there will be a lot of people, especially business people, who will be using Amsterdam as a hub to go on to the Far East.
Else, yeah.
Now, if someone else is paying the bill, to a greater or lesser extent, it doesn't actually matter, and then convenience comes into play.
Yeah.
It's why, for example, KLM operate to a lot of the UK's regional airports, because they are simply linking into the Schiphol hub. When it comes to developing traffic elsewhere out of the regional airports, it's very, very difficult because what you're trying to encourage is a route and then a decent revenue stream for an airline. So if you say, take, for example, Norwich, and you want to operate your airline, or rather the airport wants you to operate a flight to Malaga, for example. So you're trying to encourage someone to do a Malaga route. How many people are going to fly from the Norwich area to Malaga, at a level that you can compete with Ryanair out of Stansted?
Yeah. And the short answer is there isn't going to be enough interest, essentially. Yeah.
And that is the difficulty. And then if you're going to then levy additional charges to those passengers to, say, pay for, the development of the airport, well, that's going to be very difficult for any airline, because they're simply going to pass those charges on. And that's what a lot of airlines did at Blackpool, for example, when the airport levied a charge. The airlines went, well, we'll pass that on, and if the passengers don't buy the tickets, then we'll pull the service. And that's exactly what happened. Because you've always got that sort of comparison with what can this do compared to operating Stansted Malaga. So is it going to earn more money rather than just putting the aeroplane into Stansted and doing another rotation to Malaga?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so moving on to our next story. This one is all for you, Nev.
This is from the Mail Online in Australia, and it's about a Jetstar air hostess who's going to sue an airline after she injured her back whilst helping a passenger with oversized baggage.
Oh dear.
Brisbane woman Lysander Hooper was assisting a passenger to lift her hand luggage into the display size guide at Townville Airport on August the 16th, 2013, when she was injured, the Courier Mail reports. The passenger lost her grip as they lifted the luggage. One side of the luggage dropped, jolting her upper body and causing injury to her lower back, the lawyer told Brisbane District Court last Friday. And she required surgery to remove her L5/S1 disc, the paper reported, and Miss Hooper was unable to work after the injury and eventually ended up on the dole. The Brisbane District Court granted her leave to sue on August the 12th, and she started working for Jetstar in 2011 and became a flight attendant with the airline the following year, according to her LinkedIn page. Well, that's some sloppy reporting, isn't there? If ever there was some. Back to the media again.
Yes,
but the court files show Miss Hooper made a work cover claim in 1998 1998. And the Daily Mail Australia has contacted Miss Hooper and her lawyer for comment, and obviously they haven't commented so far. But I was just going to, this is not directly related to this story, but I was going to just ask Captain Al as well about what is all this business about the carry-on luggage. We've got to a situation now where the airlines encourage you not to check your luggage in, and if you do, there's quite often quite a high price penalty associated with it. But of course, when you check it in, you put it on the scales, and presumably that information goes onto the load sheet, so you know roughly what you've got on in the hold baggage area. But what about when people are carrying this heavy stuff on themselves? Does this get taken into account?
That's true, yeah, because we don't weigh them, do we?
Well, Ryanair do.
What when they go over when they go in your overheads?
Oh, they weigh them at the gate before you
they?
board. I've seen them at the gate at Stansted weighing people's hand luggage with portable scales.
Is that because but presumably that's because it looks ridiculously heavy.
Well,
and
some of them don't look heavy, but they've got the scales. They've literally got some hand scales in one hand. And in the other hand, they've got a credit card chip and pin machine.
Oh, okay. Ching ching.
There are a couple of avenues here. As you've just pointed out, Ryanair impose a weight limit for carry-on baggage, they will charge you extra if it's over that, because they'll say, right, well, that's too heavy and it now needs to go into the hold, and it'll be treated as hold baggage. Going back to your original question, though, Nev, it's an interesting one. We, in the airline world, work predominantly on notional weights or standard weights. So it will vary slightly from different parts of the world. But rather than weigh every passenger and every bag to come up with actual weights, we just work on the basis that a male passenger will weigh X amount, a female X amount, and bags will be X amount. And that way then, there is effectively a sufficient margin within all of the performance figures so that you don't actually have to have an absolute weight for your passengers and bags. Now, on smaller flights, say down in the Channel Islands when you're going on a Trilander and so forth, where there isn't the same scope or capability within the aircraft performance, then you will actually be weighed. So for us, a male passenger weighs 88 kilos. A female passenger weighs 70 kilos. And if you're travelling within Europe, your suitcase weighs 13 kilos. And if you're travelling beyond Europe, it weighs 15 kilos. Now, you're going to say, well, that's all fine and dandy. But as you say, you've pitched up with your handbag. And it is just deemed by the aviation authorities that it's going to be factored into that 88 kilos. So if we end up with a situation that quite often happens, because there just simply isn't enough hand baggage space, especially on sort of Friday afternoon flights where, business people on business flights, are going home, so they've got their business briefcase plus they've got their trolley bag, and if the flight's full, you're just not going to get everything into the hat bins, so they will go downstairs into the baggage hold. Then they get treated as baggage, so your hypothetical 0 kilo bag now goes into the baggage hold and it suddenly becomes a 13 kilo bag. But the nuts and bolts of it are we work on notional figures, and there is sufficient safety margins built into the aircraft performance to allow not to weigh everything. Now, as a final rider to that, if you had a situation, say on a 320, where you suddenly find that 174 of your passengers, a full load, are all male rugby players, then you are allowed to go, right, well, this is exceptional, so we will now effectively replace their weights. And you could do it one or two ways. You could arguably weigh everyone, but that's pointless. You can just go, right, well, everybody looks about 105 kilos, so that's what we'll use. So you are allowed to do that, but on a day-to-day basis, it's just easier to work on notional weights. Some people are going to be lighter, some people are going to be heavier.
But hopefully it'll average out.
It averages out, and that's the nuts and bolts of that. So hopefully that's answered your question.
It has. Nicely done. Thank you.
In fact, there's, again, sort of like the chat room sort of filled up. I don't think it's quite as commonplace. Are you saying you've had... Carlos was saying that he'd had bags, hand luggage carried weighed quite regularly. I've never had. Admittedly, I don't do anywhere near as much flying as everyone else, but I've never had hand luggage weighed.
Yeah, I mean, most airlines will have a weight limit for your carry-on luggage for a variety of reasons. I mean, if you were a coin collector, your hand luggage may well be a lot heavier than the average person's hand luggage, and a lot of airlines will either randomly or exclusively weigh hand baggage just to make sure. Not everyone necessarily uses it as a mechanism to tap you up for a few more quid. It's just to make sure that you're not going to overseed the weight limits for the overhead hat bins, as an example, because they do have a finite structural weight limit.
Yeah, Tony was saying that quite often the hand luggage has been weighed as far as they're concerned. Evan Shue was saying not in Australia unless it looks overly large and heavy. Actually Pitt was saying that they use a category of £212 per adult passenger, and that includes their luggage.
All right, I thought it was a lot more expensive to fly on Pip's aircraft than that, to be honest. All right, I'll give it a go next time the Evans family are going on holiday.
I meant weight. Stop it. Masha was saying that quite often flies with Ryanair and never actually had their carry-on weighed before. So it's quite, I
think they just randomly choose a flight.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't speak specifically for Ryanair, but I know that some airlines of a similar nature will have agreements with their handling company that any sort of at-the-gate charges that they can recoup, the handling company keep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Blimey, I'd encourage them to be a little bit more vigilant.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Actually, Nev, one of the things I noticed when I was booking the flights of BA was that on their site I couldn't find anything to say what the weight limit was for carry-on hand luggage of BA. I could find a size dimensions bit on their website that tells you how big your hand luggage can be, but couldn't see any weight limit for their hand luggage on BA. Is that?
I think there is a weight limit, but what I like about BA, there's a lot of discretion used and sensible behaviour at the check-in desk or at the gate. Clearly, when someone's trying to bring stuff onto the aircraft which is seriously overweight or seriously large, then something's got to be done, something about it, I would say. But generally speaking, the check-in gate people, and of course these aren't always BA staff, these are often subcontract third-party companies, but there's generally speaking a level of sensible behaviour there. But I do have to say that when I've been flying in the US, the amount of very large carry-on bags that are being brought onto the aircraft, and of course, if there's a big moment, a big turbulence moment, possibly in one of those overhead bins isn't quite locked properly, the weight of these things, can do a lot of damage to people. No question about it.
Certainly, with regards to British Airways, I can substantiate that when Mrs. Al checked in her suitcase to come back from New York a few years back. I did point out to the agent at check-in that it was a little heavy, and that's because I couldn't actually lift it. And when they put it on the scales, and it weighed at 38 kilos.
Wow.
Now, I will point out this was a hold bag, not a carry-on bag.
Right. Okay.
They went, okay, yeah, that's fine. So that they did apply a degree of discretion there as well.
Wow. Rather interestingly, in the chat room here, Pip has suggested that actually the way he measures things is by he gives them a big bear hug, and if he can lift them, they can board, which I think is an unusual approach to allowing people on this. But what Pip does in his own time obviously is none of our business. Anyway, should we move on to the next story?
Yeah, move on to the next. But before we go, where's your segment this week, Pip? Anyway, moving on to the next part of the show, or the next story, I should say, on the Globe and Mail site. This one, the headline: the airline pyjama battle heats up in first class.
I didn't realise that there was a pyjama battle. What?
So the world's premium airlines have rushed to make its first and business class cabins pleasure domes of comfort. Champagne, caviar, celebrity chefs, and seats that recline 180 degrees into beds are now mandatory if you're going to compete for the globe's top trotters. The less visible industry trend now accompanies these high-tech thrones, and the battle for supremacy is just as fierce, and the airlines have gone to war over your pyjamas. Passengers riding in the premium cabins want to deplane looking crisp and fresh, says James Bradbury Boyd, a spokesman for Singapore Airlines, which has made its sleepwear an integral part of its in-flight service for at least 20 years. They are flying many of the world's longest distances and duration flights, and many of those flights are overnight flights, he said. It's simply practical in order to help passengers arrive in better shape for them to be better able to change out of their clothes. Following years of financial duress, US carriers have also begun touting sleepwear as an amenity in their aim to get even closer to the big leagues of lavish service in which Asian and Middle Eastern carriers hold the sway. Those airlines have long considered leisure apparel de rigueur, whatever that is in French. I wasn't majored in French at school, but anyway.
De rigueur.
Yeah.
Did you do anything at school?
En vogue.
Anyway, very good.
C'est trendy, monsieur.
Almost every airline chooses cotton for its sleepwear fabric, and most, such as Singapore, have made their apparel presentation into part of their pre-bed ritual, which includes pillows, duvets, and turn-down services to replicate a posh hotel experience. The pyjamas, which can be purchased on eBay and other sites for a tidy sum, are also meant to complement the high-tech seating now found in all premium cabins. Pleasure centres almost cost airlines upward of $500,000 each year. Some of these seats offer massage and recline fully flat. And, I've had an experience of that on Emirates, which is quite nice, I must say. But Delta has pyjamas on their flights to China in their Delta One cabin, and just reading through the story carries on, but I mean, this is something that unless you fly business class or first class, you're not going to get one of these amenity kits. But we did get one of these with Virgin back in February this year, courtesy of Captain Nick, who very kindly put a good word in for us. But I must say
and they let you on despite that.
Yeah,
Good,
the Virgin Atlantic pyjamas are lovely. Me and my wife have still got ours upstairs.
Yeah, they're very comfortable, and actually on a much more practical level, if you are especially overnight travelling, long haul in business or first, the opportunity to take your trousers and your shirt off and just slip into what effectively is a long sleeve t-shirt and a pair of jogging pants, and to sleep in something far more comfortable whilst not causing some sort of diplomatic incident whilst walking around the cabin in the middle of the night, it's great, and there are certain benefits for it, and they do last quite long. The Virgin Atlantic ones do. I've got innumerable pairs of British Airways lounge pants or lounge suits as they call them, and that they make great outfits for grouting your bathroom in.
Right, splendid. A bit like what Pip did with our T-shirt then. Yeah, absolutely. He grouted the bathroom in it.
When Captain Jeff flew over to Heathrow on Acme, they gave him a nice amenity kit.
Good.
Most of the contents of which Mrs. Nev has now got. And actually, I have used the container for all my jack plugs and connectors. As he very kindly donated that to me.
Excellent.
So nicely done,
very
Captain
practical.
Jeff.
I like it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, in my flight case for work, you'll see various sort of like pencil case looking devices. They're amenity kit bags off various airlines that I've snaffled along the way.
Right. Okay. Good. Yes.
Yeah, I think some of these amenity kits that you see, I mean, they do hold some quite nice bits and pieces, really.
I think if I remember rightly, if you travel first class with Emirates, the actual amenity kit, if you were to buy the sort of toiletries that are in the bag, would cost you in excess of £400.
Jeff has a minor complaint, by the way, saying, "Are you not mailing that back?" By the way.
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff. You've lost that now, sir.
Yeah, absolutely, it's gone now. It's not happening.
So what amenity kits do you offer on Royal Jet, Al?
We used to offer an amenity kit to our premium passengers when we did the long haul product, which was, off the top of my head, a pair of socks, some earplugs, a blindfold, some toothpaste, a toothbrush, a pen.
A pen?
Well, You see, quite often when you're travelling long haul, you have documents to fill out for customs and immigration.
Oh, okay.
So actually,
yeah,
a pen is a
yes,
remarkably
exactly,
useful piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And I think that was basically it. These days, we do offer a fleece and a blindfold.
Right. Okay. Oh, I like the fleece idea. That's a nice idea.
I like that, yeah.
I see. Can you request a larger than hell size?
I could sense
One size fits all.
Oh,
I
right,
could
okay.
sense a prize there for the Christmas draw for the Christmas competition.
Right.
Royal
okay.
Jet
Yeah.
Fleece.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So the last
story,
last
yeah.
news story. Actually, we're going to let Al do this one because you picked this one up for us, Al.
Oh, is this the one that I told you about? Okay.
It's actually about an airline, a low cost airline, budget airline here, in the
based
UK.
out of Luton.
Based out of Luton.
Okay.
Pip's favourite airport.
Yes, indeed.
This comes from where did I say it came from now? Oh, the Money Week
In the
website.
Telegraph, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
And, it's bids and deals. EasyJet takeover talk has wings. Shares in the budget airline EasyJet have bounced on rumours that it could be a takeover target after several weeks of bad news. Britain's vote to leave the European Union sent the firm into a tailspin. Good journalism. A sharp drop in the pound has made it more expensive for British travellers to travel abroad, while inflating the company's fuel costs, which are priced in dollars.
Right.
There are also questions about EasyJet's headquarters, which are in Luton. Airlines based in Britain could be blocked from Europe's Open Skies Agreement, which restricts foreign airlines from landing at EU airports. The company reported a drop in full-year sales last month to £1.2 billion, blaming terrorist attacks in Turkey and France and a strike by air traffic controllers. Chief Executive Carolyn McCall has said it's the toughest aviation environment since she rose to the post 6 years ago. She has slashed prices by 6% to 10% to stimulate bookings, but EasyJet's difficulties could add up to a bargain for acquirers. Rumours have swirled around the city that EasyJet could be gobbled up by a private equity fund, says Tara Cunningham in the Daily Telegraph. EasyJet's founder Stelios still has a 33% stake, so his preference will be crucial. But buyout specialist Grable is making moves. The shares are tempting, airlines are cyclical, and things probably can't get much worse for EasyJet.
See, I missed it because this story came as a bit of a surprise to all of us. So we sort of missed it on the initial news wires and stuff. I mean, are they? I can't imagine that EasyJet are really in trouble as such. I mean, it might just be that, as you say, they're a PLC company. Therefore, essentially, if you've got enough money, anyone can buy it. But it's
I mean, Stelios retains 33%. That therefore implies that the remainder is openly traded.
Yeah.
So if and I don't know what the EasyJet share price is, but if we say, for example, that you bought shares at £5 and they're now sitting at £3, if someone offers you £3.50,
right,
you may well go,
take it,
I'll take that now. Thanks very much.
And therefore, a takeover essentially commences if you buy enough shares.
Yeah,
that's true.
Just looking on the site here for EasyJet, their fleet, which is obviously all Airbus aircraft.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Based on reliability.
233 aircraft currently in service with EasyJet, the A319s and the A320s, but they've got no A320 Neos yet. They've got them on order, though. They've got 130 of those on order, Al. You'd be pleased to know.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to actually see how the 320/321 Neos pan out against the 73 Maxes, actually. It's going to be a real battle over the claimed fuel burns versus the actual fuel burns. And Boeing are very, very confident that they will see the fuel burn reductions that they're claiming for the Max. Right. So it will be interesting to see how that pans out.
Also, wouldn't be the first time where a manufacturer has made certain claims about fuel or potential fuel burns only to find that they have been exceeded, and actually the operators then go back to the manufacturers for a bit of a handout.
I think that's happened on just about every aircraft that I've come in contact with, really, because it's very, very similar to buying a car where the salesperson in the showroom says, "Oh yeah, it does 85 miles to the gallon," and you go, "Brilliant! Should we go for a ride then?"
Yeah.
And then you come back and it's done 39. You say, "Oh yeah, well that was in test environment, with the wind behind it, and
the computer had been jiggled with so that it told lies to the machine."
Yeah, absolutely.
He says, not being too scandalous.
Now, Al, Royal Jet have got obviously they've got the A320s and the A321s.
Yes.
According to their site, they're replacing the 320s with 737 Maxes. They've got 30 on order, which should be delivered in the second quarter of 2018. Is that going to affect you at all? In regards to what you fly. I mean, are you gonna transition to the Max, or are you going to stay with the
I will
320?
eventually transition to the Max. I'm aiming to stay on the Airbus for a little while because there will be a transitionary period. But that's only because I just like eating my food off a table and not my lap. When it actually comes down to the nuts and bolts of it, candidly, I'm a pilot by profession, so I don't really have an input onto which tools I'm given to use. So I'll use whichever tools my employer provides me, and I will fly what they tell me to fly. Part of me is actually looking forward to the arrival of the 737 Maxes, because although the airframe itself hasn't changed very much, the avionics, the toys on the flight deck, as it were, are very state-of-the-art. It's going to be a more sophisticated avionics package than the Dreamliner, so we will be able to do a lot more very snazzy things in it and take it to certain airfields that have always been a little bit of a challenge with regards to poor weather. Say, for example, Innsbruck springs to mind.
York is saying in the chat room actually that he flew the A320neo a few times with Lufthansa. It actually says it's a lot quieter than the old one.
Yeah. The old 320 with the CFM engine
56s,
is a reasonably noisy aeroplane. Certainly in the takeoff and climb phase, it gets quite quieter.
And the other question isn't the Neo using the geared turbofan?
It is. Yes.
Is it? Now what does that mean? Sorry to Mr. Layman here.
Haven't a clue.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry I asked. Okay. So anyway, somebody look that up for me and fill me in. What we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the commercial aviation section for this week. We've got our last interview from the Royal International Air Tattoo at Fairford, and this was with the display pilot Gizmo.
Gizmo.
The
F-16.
The F-16. Now he's talking
Don't
about
let
the
him go out in the wet, will he?
No. Indeed. Yeah, otherwise they'll be...
Don't feed him after midnight.
No, goodness me, no. Anyway, that's a terrible thing. We didn't mean that, Gizmo, if you are listening to this. I should just say that although he's talking about the F-16, sorry, we did do the interview on an A400M, and that's why there's...
C-130J.
The C-130J, I'm sorry, it wasn't an A400M.
We sat here and discussed
I know, and I forgot.
Matt.
So that's what confused me. So it is the C-130J, because you were even impressed because I remembered that it was a J.
I know.
Absolutely. So yes, so the video footage was actually taken on a C-130J, so that's why there's video footage of that. So if you're ready, as I say, it's our last interview from the Royal International Air Tattoo.
Okay, back again at the Royal International Air Tattoo, RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire, and we've been very lucky indeed to join the F-16 solo display pilot Gizmo, and he's with the Belgian Air Force, and I was lucky to see Gizmo fly last year at the Malta International Air Show. So Gizmo, welcome onto the show.
Welcome. Thanks.
So Gizmo, what's your role? You're obviously the solo display pilot. What's the F-16 like to fly as a stunt sort of aircraft as such?
Well, people might think it's getting a little bit of old, but it's still a highly performant aircraft, highly maneuverable, very agile, plenty of power. So actually, it's a real fun aircraft to display in front of a crowd because you can really enjoy flying it. Low speed, high speed, highly maneuverable. It's really fun.
Great. And this is your first time at Riyadh? Have you been before in previous years?
It's actually my second year as a display pilot performing at Riyadh.
Oh, great. Yeah, like I said, I saw your display at say, Malta, and that was fantastic to see. Some of the manoeuvres you pull were great. Does it take a lot of training to learn for all those manoeuvres you do?
Actually, most of the manoeuvres are standard manoeuvres that are learned throughout basic flight training. We're not used to doing them in such a short sequence with an F-16. We use a lot of these maneuvers during combat, so it's just a matter of training to put them all in a sequence nice and fluently, and keep them centered on a display center, and getting used to the low-level environment and the performance of the jet at 500 feet.
That's amazing. I said the display you do is great. Are you doing a display here at Riyadh this year?
Yeah, we've been displaying here on Thursday, rehearsal, and then we've been displaying on Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
So the F-16 you fly, is it modified at all, or is it a standard F-16?
It's a pretty standard F-16. The only modification that is done is that it's painted with the paint scheme just to stand out a little bit. And it's monitored for fatigue, so I always use the same aircraft. But for the rest, it's the standard F-16, with the only change that we put smoke whiners on the tips instead of missiles or other weaponry.
Okay, so in the Belgian Air Force, do you have a role in the Air Force as well, apart from the display flying?
Yeah, display flying is actually a secondary job. So my primary job is I'm being the wing flight safety officer for Kleine Vogel Air Base during week, and display flying is something for during the weekends.
Oh, great. So a bit about your background then, Gizmo, your career. How did it all start for you, the passion for flying aviation?
I was always interested in air shows. As a child I was going to air shows as well. Then I started glider flying at the age of 15 back in 93. Joined the Air Force in 96, went on to fly C-130s initially. Afterwards I was an instructor on the Marchetti, basic instructor plane. And in 2005 I joined the OCU, the Operational Conversion Unit in Kleine Vogel, to do my conversion on the F-16. From there on I went to 3-1 Squadron, Tigers in Kleine Vogel, where I went through all the steps growing up as a element lead, flight lead, force lead, tactical instructor, strike qualification, and FCF pilot. And then afterwards in 2013 I moved on to become the wing flight safety officer.
So it must be quite a difference to go from flying the C-130, which we're currently sitting on now, to flying the F-16. That must be a real difference between the two aircraft.
There's quite some difference, but each aircraft has its own particularities, and they're both fun to fly. So,
do you have a favourite out of any of the aircraft you've flown?
Well, the F-16 will remain always my favourite.
Okay, so it's a question we ask before we round up. Then, Gizmo, we ask all the pilots we interview, and for the show. And if you had the choice of to fly any aircraft in the world, flying or retired, what would be your aircraft of choice?
Pretty much the F-16. Although I would like to have a turn at some of the old timers, like a P-51. I'd love flying on one of these.
Yeah, a lot of the pilots say the P-51 or the Spitfire. So it's a popular aircraft, I think.
It's either one of both.
Great. So what's the future hold for you, Gizmo? What plans you got for the future?
I'll do another season after this one as a display pilot, and after that we'll see.
Great. Well, wish you all the best for the future, Gizmo. It's been great to talk to you today, and thanks for your time on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
And we're back.
We are indeed.
I hope you all enjoyed that. The last of the interviews that we took at the Royal International Air Tattoo RAF Fairford. That was a great weekend, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
We had fun
great
there.
Fun, absolutely.
I mean, we've met Captain Al that weekend as well.
Indeed, he popped up somewhere from there. Yes.
Yeah, we had a good weekend. That was thoroughly enjoyable. So we have got a little segment that's been sent in.
Now, this is slightly our fault, isn't it, what this is? Because we were talking, those who were watching last week, what was it last week or the week before? Anyway, we were talking about flight safety videos, weren't we? And we were talking about the videos. Honestly, you like highlighting the fact that I've chosen the wrong camera.
Are they available for sale on the Plain Talking UK
They
website?
ought to be. We ought to do something.
Yeah,
We ought to do something.
We have to work
anyway.
out.
Sorry for those of you listening. That was actually he was holding up his Plain Talking UK mug. That's why we're having the laugh and the joke at my expense because I'd chosen the wrong camera. Right. Yes. So yes, we were talking about aviation.
Fortunately, you didn't choose my camera.
No, I did briefly and then turned it off. We've got a section that the lovely Micah has sent us, and as I say, we were talking about how we think that Micah ought to be the one that everyone hears when we're talking about the flight safety information or instructional video that the story that we were reading out was talking about doing. And obviously, it was Air New Zealand that are quite famous for doing
Air New Zealand,
some really amazing ones. And
they've done some naked ones, haven't they, which grabs everyone's attention.
Probably, yes. I think they have. I think they
yes, they have.
They have genuinely to try and grab everyone's attention on the
certainly
screen.
grabbed mine.
Indeed. But before we get into
Rewound
trouble,
it several times.
Yeah, indeed. So we're going to move on to, as I say, Micah is very. I'm rambling now because panic has set in. Maybe you should take
Zoomed
over
in
because
and
I've stopped. I
So
can't talk anymore.
So what we asked Micah to do last week was to send us in his own version of what we should all hear on board an aircraft when they do the pre-flight briefing.
Yeah.
So we're going to hand things over to Micah.
Hello, Carlos and Matt, and all Plain Talking UK listeners. Well, you asked for a potential safety briefing from me, and here's what I came up with. Let's see if you think this would make any difference if a safety briefing like this was used on board, well, let's say, an Acme flight. Here we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Okay, let's try this again. Hey, everyone, pay attention. Look up. Take your headphones off or out of your ears. I'm talking to you. Okay, that's better. Thank you. Now leave those headphones off until we're cruising at 10,000 feet. We'll let you know. You need to maintain situational awareness during takeoff in case of an emergency. So now that you can hear me, welcome aboard Acme Flight 13 to Manchester, New Hampshire. Just to be clear, this is Acme Flight 13 to Manchester, New Hampshire. If anyone on board is traveling to Manchester, Lancashire, in England, please disembark now. If you remain on board, you'll be in for a big surprise upon arrival in New Hampshire. Now, a few safety details before we depart. First, flying is inherently safe, far safer than driving. But bear in mind that although we do our best here at Acme to make you as comfortable as possible, we can't suspend Newton's laws of motion. So pay attention to this safety briefing, not just for yourself and for your safety, but for the safety of your fellow passengers and the crew. First, if you haven't figured it out, your seatbelt operates like this. Now that you know how to use it, put it on, low and tight around your lap, and do not take it off until we have stopped at the gate in Manchester, New Hampshire. Yes, there will be times when the seatbelt sign light is off, but that means you may use the restroom if you have to. It does not mean you can take off your seatbelt while you're in your seat. Hey, 23D, did you hear me? Thank you, 23D. That Nerf ball that you just felt hit you in the head, it demonstrates Newton's first law of motion. Often referred to as the law of inertia, Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest stays at rest and an object in motion stays in motion at the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. 23D, your forehead was that unbalanced force. So do I have your attention now? Now, had that Nerf ball been buckled in, it wouldn't have been able to leave my hand and become a projectile. So as long as you remain buckled in, you won't become a projectile either. Next, if due to an emergency, we experience a sudden decompression and the oxygen masks drop here from the ceiling, put the mask on right away. Then gently tug at the tube and activate the flow. Don't worry if you can't feel airflow or if the bag doesn't inflate, the oxygen is flowing. Only after your mask is on should you try to help others. If you wait to activate your own oxygen, you'll pass out, and that's not helpful to anyone. Now take a look around and note your closest exits. Count the rows to those exits and remember that number. Understand that your closest exit may not be in front of you. Only open or if instructed by a crew member. Also, in the event of an emergency evacuation, get out of the airplane. Leave everything behind. Taking a bag will slow you down and may be the cause of your death or the death of someone else. If we call for an emergency evacuation, it means your life is in danger. Do not be concerned about material possessions at that time. Just get out of the plane. 2 more things, and we can get going. In the event of a water landing, the seat cushions can be used to aid you in flotation. Also, there are inflatable life vests under your seat. They go on like this. Now here's the important part about these life vests. If we land in the water, do not inflate the life vest until you're off the aircraft. If the aircraft fills with water during evacuation and you have inflated your life vest, you will float to the top of the cabin and not be able to get out the exit door, and you will drown. So only inflate the life vests after you're outside of the aircraft. Now remember, the likelihood of any of these things happening is slim. But remember the beginning of this when I mentioned the term situational awareness? That's what it's all about. Be aware of your surroundings. Keep yourself and your fellow passengers and your crew safe. So although you're not in your living room, please sit back and enjoy your flight. We'll try to make it as comfortable as possible for you. That's it. What do you think? Probably won't fly. Well, if I were to say that, I certainly wouldn't fly. But that's my safety briefing. For Plane Talking UK, here in Portland, Maine, this is your main man, Micah.
Well, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well done. Well done, Micah. Well done.
Very good, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
No, actually, that would be a good announcement, I think. That would definitely make people...
I like how he started off like, no, ladies and gentlemen, please, and then sort of like actually, pull your headphones out, sit bolt upright, shut up, get stuck in, listen. Because I think, as we were saying with the with that actual story when we were reading it out, people are so sort of complacent almost. Because they assume they know it all already, because maybe they've been lucky enough that they've flown quite a lot and they don't sort of assume that they know exactly what's going to be said in said safety briefing. And
I'm guessing on Royal Jet, Al, your briefings are still given by the cabin crew.
Yeah, absolutely. The way it works in the United Kingdom is the air navigation order requires the commander of any aeroplane to issue a safety briefing, and then basically that can be delegated. So when the cabin crew are issuing the safety brief, it is done for the commander of the aeroplane. Right. And that's why the safety brief will always be done after everybody's on board.
Right, yeah, okay. Once the doors are locked, essentially, and you're not going to get
anyone because every passenger has to be briefed. So if you did the safety brief when there were still some passengers yet to board, then they wouldn't be briefed.
Do you have a pre-recorded thing that's played out, or is it done by the person holding the intercom?
It varies. Just at the moment, it is done by one of the cabin crew reading it out, and the remainder of the cabin crew pointing out where the exits are and how to put your seatbelt on. Yeah. Candidly, if you can't operate a seatbelt, then I have some questions about whether you should actually be on the aeroplane at all and out in the open.
The only thing I'm going to not disagree with you, but just comment there, because it is a slightly unusual method of. It's not like your seatbelt in your car. So the buckle, for me, the very first time I got on a plane, if it's the first time that you've ever flown on an aircraft, the buckle isn't as straightforward as perhaps you
Was
might.
this your precursor to going, Miss, I need help with my seatbelt, please, it's in my lap?
I'm not going to answer that one.
Because they have heard that one before.
Right, damn it. Okay. That's my line out.
I do take that on board, but the safety brief is pretty standard. Many years ago, when I used to fly on the Jetstream 41, which was a 29-seat turboprop, the cabin crew, it was a single cabin crew person, and they would have a choice of methods of delivering the safety brief. They could either have like a Madonna-style headset, and they would read it and do, or quite often they'd ask the first officer if they would read it. And one of the little things that we used to do, bearing in mind that we were on the flight deck behind a door and they were in the cabin, so there was no line of sight, is we would reorder the sequence of events in the safety brief. So
just to keep them on their toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
watch them scrabbling for another piece of equipment.
Absolutely. So just as they're about to put the life jacket on, we would mention the drop-down masks.
Right, good, lovely.
And also we had the ability to vary the speed of delivery of said.
Okay.
Now, of course,
that's not very nice.
Once you've done that a few times, the pain that you experience from your cheek as it's smarting from the slap that you've had,
you've quite rightly received
from the feisty cabin crew member will remind you that you can't do that on a regular basis unless you want to enter the forfeits game.
Right, no, that's a subject matter for perhaps a late night version of this show. The issue the other question I was going to ask you actually, Al, how do you feel about it just being? I appreciate not all flights have in-flight video, but say every aircraft had video put into it, and I know certainly with the flights that I've been on where they've had the headrest like TVs and stuff, and you can override what that person is seeing to do. I mean, how would you feel about it being a video-only presentation with regard to the safety briefing,
as opposed to audio and video? So,
well, no. I mean audio and video, so it's played out and it comes out. But I mean, rather than the cabin crew doing it essentially,
video. I mean, a lot of airlines do use the video in the seatback TV to do the safety
right.
briefing.
Okay.
As a matter of course. However, you do need to point out where your nearest exit is.
Right.
So unless you can tailor the presentation in your seatback TV to where you are set...
Wow, that is a serious networking challenge
well,
to be able to do that.
So you're now up to 400 video streams.
Yes. Okay, yes.
You're still going to require someone to actually point out
to where the
exits
are. So they're still going to be involved in. They still have to be involved.
Absolutely, and I know some airlines who, as a matter of course, do the video demo. Either as standard operating procedure or just sort of on the whim of the purser or in-flight supervisor, will say, right, today we're doing a manual demo, so that everyone is still au fait with how it goes.
Okay, right.
And I think at Acme Red, they do it on a certain day of the week or a certain day of the month.
Okay.
So that day is designated manual demo. So
manual
everyone
demo day, yeah.
is just up to speed on how to do it.
But you don't, with the exception of the exit element to it, you don't have a problem with it being sort of mainly a video presentation.
Absolutely not. No, and
as long as it's been done well, of course.
Yes, I mean, one of the benefits that you can do with a video demonstration is it can be subtitled for multi-language.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're flying to Spain, you can have Spanish subtitles.
Yeah.
Equally, it can be subtitled in English for those who are hard of hearing.
Yeah.
And finally, we do have Braille safety cards on the aeroplane.
Okay.
For passengers who are blind or partially
yeah, of course.
sighted.
I hadn't thought. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you've got to literally cover all bases. Essentially, haven't you?
One of the things I've asked Jeff on his show, Al, many years, or a year ago at least.
And he's still working his way around to your feedback.
No.
He hasn't got that far yet. Yeah.
He actually answered the feedback quite quickly. But one of the things I personally enjoy, and I'm sure pretty much everyone in the chat room will enjoy, when you board an aircraft and you obviously the flight crew introduce themselves up the front, you and your first officer. You know, that hearing your voice and, you know, explaining where we're going to go and how high this and that we're going to go and blah, blah, and how long it's going to be before we get to somewhere. That's important to me. I enjoy that. But a lot of airlines that I've flown with, that's all you hear until you land. They don't do any more talking during the flight to say, well, look, if you look out your window now, you can see Bob's house.
Okay. Good old Uncle Bob.
Are you a great believer in chatting to the you know, the obviously during a day,
if it's appropriate,
flight, if it's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean,
for me, it falls into the category of horses for courses. The flying that I do is primarily leisure flying, so a lot of the passengers feedback to me when we point out things along the way. You know, and I'll you know, maybe do one or two announcements during the course of the flight. If there's anything to see, is they enjoy that element, just like you've described.
Yeah.
If you're on a business flight where, you know, the passenger makeup is predominantly business people, candidly, they're not interested in whether you can see the Eiffel Tower or not.
Right. Yeah.
That's me. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Because they've flown over it 100,000 times.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
But when we used to fly down to Egypt quite a lot, the number of people who were regular travellers to, say, Sharm el Sheikh or Hurghada, would say to me, "Thanks very much for pointing out the pyramids. We've never known where they are
Where
and
they
where to
actually
see
are,
them."
yeah.
And actually, you might think, "Well, pyramids, they're dead easy spot." They're actually incredibly difficult
From
to
up there,
spot
they
from
are,
the air, unless you know specifically where you are.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the flip side to that is that some people will be, listening to the entertainment, their own entertainment or the in-flight entertainment, and you're interrupting that.
Yeah.
So it is an element of horses for courses. When I used to do long-haul flights, I've made very little in the way of announcements during the course of it because you're disturbing the film, and and that's annoying for a lot of people. And candidly, when you're flying across the Atlantic, there's not a lot to point out anyway. No. I did one trip where we pointed out some very large icebergs off the coast of Greenland, which candidly we don't see very often, free-floating icebergs. And that's probably about the only occasion that I did that. So, and I wouldn't do it at night because people are trying to sleep.
No, it's
That's nice to hear.
But even as a nervous passenger, as we've discussed before, as a nervous passenger, it's actually quite nice for even from my point. I can't bring myself to look out the window, but it's nice to know that that's where I am and what I'm flying over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it goes. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, and I'm also trying to be involved in steering my professional back a little bit, so that we're not just considered to be glorified Uber taxi drivers.
I don't think you'd ever be considered that.
Well, in the eyes of some passengers, we're just there to drive the thing, and to an extent that's true, but a very small extent. There's a lot more to it. So, whilst we're never going to go back to the the sort of glory days, where the airline crew were held in high esteem, and the cabin crew were amazing, and all of those sort of 1920s, 1930s kind of era. I do think that there is a place for instilling a little bit of romance back into aviation flying, a little bit of feeling, and a little bit of personality.
Of which perhaps the low-cost airlines are perhaps guilty of sort of maybe eroding to a degree.
For many passengers, flying on an aeroplane is still a non-regular event. It's not something you do every week. All right, Carlos is an av geek, so he's obviously going to be very excited every time he goes flying. But for a lot of people, they're excited because it's associated with their holiday.
Yeah.
And a lot of my passengers, love to, have the food on board, and it's all part of that holiday experience.
Yeah.
So providing a little bit of, sort of intimate information as to what, flight details are going to, prevail during on their route and so forth, and what they can expect to see, I think it's good fun.
I think you hit the nail on the head perfectly there when you talked about personality, Al. And when there's been occasions where we have picked up long-term delays, whether due to ground stop issues or tech issues or the 24-hour delay thing, when the captain or first officer not just comes over the PA but actually gets up and uses the front crew position PA, that is a fantastic experience, and it keeps everybody on side, and it's such an easy win. It really is. And there's a couple of YouTube clips, perhaps Matt might want to link them, of a couple of guys that have done this on EasyJet, and there's a couple of other guys that worked for other airlines that did it, and it really does show how it turns a particularly difficult situation into one where the passengers go, "Okay, Captain, we're in your hands. We'll wait for you."
Absolutely, I've done that on a handful of occasions. And without blowing my own trumpet, it does go down well with the passengers, because, of course, the majority of the time we're the unseen, and it's very easy to develop negative thoughts to someone that you've not seen. But once you've experienced that sort of face-to-face relationship, and there have been occasions, certainly over the last few years, where we've had sort of lengthy air traffic control delays, which are entirely out of my hands. And I'll go and wander down the cabin and chat to passengers, and it's amazing how well that goes down.
I can imagine, yeah, absolutely.
Because and similarly, we have children come and visit the flight deck, because we're on the ground, we're just waiting for our air traffic control slot.
That's normally me.
Yeah,
yeah, but you're not a child anymore. You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be all grown up about it. Yeah,
but it is amazing how well that goes down, and I do try to do. It's not always possible when things are quite dynamic, and as the captain of the aeroplane, you do need to be at the focus point of all of the sort of channels of communication. But when it's obvious that you're not going to be going anywhere for some time, whether it be technical or weather or air traffic control, to actually go and spend some time with the customers.
Indeed, yeah, and
that's
that
important.
That is what we are at the end of the day, isn't it? As far as you're concerned, you're looking after Royal Jet's customers, essentially. And I think, again, I use some of the lower cost carriers as an example of that. They're perhaps a little guilty of treating us more like cattle, perhaps, than anything else.
Yeah, and at my own airline, we've been trained in sort of customer-facing skills, and we're actively encouraged, especially when passengers are disembarking the aircraft, to go and say cheerio and shake hands and that sort of thing. And I think that's really, really important. It's often not possible when people are boarding, when it would be possibly the more logical time to do it.
Just greet people,
because obviously, from my point of view, there's an awful lot going on, and time is money. But when we're disembarking, very often I'll say cheerio to passengers, and it's a company policy to try to where possible.
Well, listen, guys, I'm afraid we're rapidly running out of time. We're sort of reaching our 2-hour slot window now, so it is sort of time to bring episode... I know we're having such a lovely time, but the episode 126, we need to sort of really start bringing to a close.
Before we close, though, just...
see, you're ignoring...
Just
he's overriding the producer again, isn't he?
Just listen. Before we close, just a quick roundup, because you guys a few weeks ago, obviously, Al flew over here, and Al took you up in the PA-28, and you had your very first flight in a GA aircraft, Matt.
I did, absolutely. It's still my only real memory of it was actually, funnily enough,
and I'm still jealous. By the way,
obviously, I would expect you to be nothing less. And actually, seeing it on the ground again today at Beccles sort of brought back a few more memories, because I didn't really remember a great deal about it. Other than my only lasting memory was incredible views, because it was a beautiful day, unlike today. I'm sorry to say, but my lasting memory was stunning views of our local area. But actually, sort of more of the flight sort of came flashing back to me, if you like, when I saw it on the ground today at Beccles. And it's
well, I'm very much a believer in seizing the moment, and there were many opportunities for you to say, actually, I don't want to do this today, and that would have been fine. But having such positivity coming from you, and there was, the time and the place and the opportunity. Let's go do it. And there was no screaming, no shouting, no vomiting.
No, I did quite well. I was very proud of myself. I have to say, I don't think I'd have enjoyed it anywhere near as much as I did if it was a day like today.
But candidly, we wouldn't have done it.
No, okay.
So that was all part of the decision-making process that I went through. So no, on a day like today, it wouldn't have been offered to you.
No, because it would just be too bumpy and
Well, it's not conducive to calm and relaxation, which is what we wanted to try and get out.
Absolutely. And I must say, actually, again, thank you to everyone, because I've had some fantastic messages from everyone who were really supportive and sort of really pleased that I'd finally gone up in the air and in a little GA. I presume that stands for General Aviation.
It does, yeah.
Okay. And it was really, really good. As I said, there was a lovely little message that we got from Milo, which I couldn't actually put out for time constraints on the thing. As I say, it's just been great feedback, and I am genuinely actually looking forward to my next flight to like Derry, if I can still get one, it seems, thanks to Brexit. But anyway, it's just I'm looking forward to. I'm not so much looking forward to the flight, but I'm looking forward to putting the tools, if you like, that you armed me with. I'm looking forward to actually putting those into practice and sitting there thinking about what's going on and feeling the angles and telling myself that it isn't as bad as it feels, and do you know what I mean? It's just little things like that. So as I say, from my own point of view, I must say a big thanks to Al, not only for flying over here a few weekends back to give me this what I can only describe as fantastic counselling. It really was. It was a very candid conversation. We were both sort of quite open about what was going on, and I would like you, please, to give your website a good plug, if that's all right
absolutely.
With you. If you can at all manage to do that for me.
It's www.flightfearsolutions.co.uk.
All as one word, that is, so it's www.flightfearsolutions.co.uk. And speaking from personal experience, I as I say, it was a fantastic sort of 2.5 hours. I know you don't normally do it in such a short window.
No, and I also don't often use the light aeroplane, the general
Yeah.
aviation aeroplane. Normally we do. There's sort of accompanied flight on a commercial airline. So that was a little bit of
unusual,
a special sort of thing for you. So if anybody is listening, I don't think I want to go up in a little aeroplane. That's not a requirement by any stretch of the imagination.
And as I said at the time, if it had been anyone other than Captain now sat next to me, I don't think I'd have been able to do it either, if I'm honest. So, it's credit where credit's due. But it was a fantastic experience, and I am genuinely looking forward to putting the tools that you've armed me with, if you like, into practice. So. Yes, and there's some great photos of Al's visit last time round. We haven't taken any photos today of when he arrived because it's not very nice out there.
Windy.
Windy is not covering it. As I say, I don't know how you got it here so easily today. Really,
that's nicely covered by the fact that you were late arriving.
Okay, that was Matt's fault. Anyway,
how dare you?
I'm gonna quickly get this out before we close, because this is going to bug me if I don't say this.
Okay, all right.
A geared turbofan.
Oh, here we go. Right,
is a more efficient type of turbofan aircraft engine. Gears allow the compressor turbine assembly and the fan to spin at different angular velocities.
Okay,
there we go. So, Nev.
Yes. Hi, Nev.
Hi, Nev. Massive thanks to you, Nev, for driving all the way here to see us
absolutely.
today. And where can people find out more about you, Nev?
Yeah, well, I work for a company called Feltech, Feltech, and our website is feltech.co.uk, and our business is audiovisual systems integration, broadcast, mucking about with gear, basically, and
all the things I want to do for a living.
We enjoy that a lot. And,
Yeah.
yes, that's my normal job, but obviously I've got a huge passion for aviation. Like one of these days, when I can afford it, a long time in the future, I would really like to take a PPL, but just at the moment I don't have the money nor the time, sadly.
Yeah, I think it's the time, isn't it? I mean, people don't realise that some serious work has to be done in order to get.
Captain Jeff has put in the chat room. What's that company called? Nevtech.
Nevtech, that's it.
Yeah,
why not? Yeah.
The other reason that actually I would find doing a PPL quite difficult, even if I had the money all the time now, is where I live to the northwest of London is very congested in terms of the general airspace that's available. So there's 4, 5, 6 main airports around London, and just not quite as much space as you have up here, guys.
No, indeed, yes, we are quite spoilt.
I'm sure
really.
I'll be doing airspace infringement left, right, and centre if I wasn't careful. So I'll be subject to an AAIB report, I expect.
Indeed, yeah, and so yes. If you don't know about our show already, obviously, where have you been? You're listening to it, so I presume you've already found us in some way. But our website, if you want to look at some of the photos, got some great photos from both Riyadh and Farnborough. Actually, Farnborough interviews will start not next week, but the week after. There's a good reason for that because I'm on holiday, and Carlos, frankly, will have enough to do because he's in the studio on his own, which could be hilarious. So make sure that you're listening because it could be a car crash. Everyone, yes. www.planetalkinguk.com is the website. If you want to watch us live on YouTube, it is www.youtube.com/planetalkinguk/live. Facebook.com/planetalkinguk is how you get to us there. And our Twitter handle is @planetalkinguk. If you want to write an email to us directly, you can find that at no, I'm lying at all. It's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. I was doing so well then.
I actually thought it was pre-recorded.
Absolutely.
It was on rails.
Yeah, it was, absolutely. And it just that's a lovely shot of you, by the way, on the YouTube. I'm not sure that reminds me of what
Caption
was
competition there.
Indeed,
competition.
absolutely.
So
anyway,
before we close the show, we're going to say a massive thank you to everyone who's joined us in the chat room today.
It's been really busy.
It's
today.
been
great.
really, really busy chat room, especially our friends across the pond and obviously all around Europe who've joined us in the room.
Steph was listening to us while she was running.
Yeah, and Captain Jeff has been listening to us while he's been driving. He obviously had the autopilot on.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, just hold that up to the camera.
I tell you what, it's been very interesting and very educational in the studio kitchen here because there's so many things going on off camera that the viewer just would not see, and it's probably just as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been a terrifying experience for us all. But no,
and also we want to say, obviously, me and Matt want to say a big thanks to both of you guys for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
An absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
it's been brilliant.
We've still got some more bits and pieces to do later on today.
Yeah,
We've
absolutely.
got
Taking them to the best restaurant in the world later.
Yeah.
In the world.
In the world.
In the world. I'm sorry, I'm channeling my inner Clarkson, all right? It's in the world. No? Okay.
Okay.
And on that bombshell, it is time to bring episode 126 to a close. I don't have a wide shot for everyone to see today, so we'll just have to go around. We'll go around. So we'll say to Al, say goodbye, Al.
Cheerio, bye-bye.
Yeah, Nev, say goodbye, Nev.
See you, bye.
Yeah, Carlos, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm going to say goodbye, but only very briefly because I have to press this button. From all of us here in the studio, it is goodbye.
Bye.